All right, this is Lawrence D. Adams, and I'm here again. We got a nice little video right quick. Definitely going to come up. We're going to talk about It's My Pleasure. What was it again? What was the name of the title again?
It's My Pleasure.
It's My Pleasure. And it was a conversation that me and Ms.E had earlier today, or earlier on IG. And I thought it was pretty interesting to say, hey, let's talk about that so that everyone can enjoy our conversation. So let's talk about it. What made you really get into say it's my pleasure? Because I know it was a conversation that we had and we sort of took it there.
It was something I was watching, but of course, well, my pleasure comes from Chick-fil-A, and just thinking about how it makes you feel when you go there and they tell you, even though they say it to everybody, it just make you feel like you're special when they say, my pleasure. And I was thinking, what if people were to say that or use that within relationships or amongst one another? I think it'd be a whole lot more happy people out there if you say, my pleasure. Like, that makes you feel special, makes you feel wanted. It's just something about it. It's simple, but my pleasure it's just something about it.
Yeah, I think what happens is, like we were saying in the DM, that if people were to say my pleasure more, how would that change the dynamics between the relationship between men and women, people interacting with each other, but mainly between couples? If they were to say, it's my pleasure, how would that change their interaction? First, there being arguments and disagreements, that can happen, but it would actually mitigate that because you're saying, it's my pleasure to do this for you. It softens the tone of anything going on with them.
Right.
And so I think a lot of times people need to say it's my pleasure. So when you begin to say it's my pleasure, man, think about how that would change. Just first, what about if people were to say it to themselves first? Always start with yourself. It's my pleasure to make sure I'm good. But also when you begin to take that same energy and say, you know what? It's my pleasure to do this for you. But you got to say it the right way. You can't be like, oh, it's my pleasure, whatever. So
right.
So what do you think about that?
I agree. It has to be heartfelt. It has to be genuine. Say, you're coming in and, you fix me something to eat and somebody just said my pleasure, like that just changes the whole mood. You could have been going through something before you walk through the door, or it puts you at ease. That person really, you know what I'm saying, like wants to say cater to me, like it's like my pleasure, like say it's all about you.
Right. There you go. So it takes the thing off of, it's 10, what can I do to give to you? How can I make your life easier when you say it's my pleasure? And then it's not a pain. I'm not doing it out of, spite, but I'm doing it because I want to do it. It's a joy for me to do it. You right. Think that's what people are missing?
Absolutely. I think the whole catering is something to say you should want to do in a relationship. Like I said, it's a win-win. It's a win-win. So you're catering because if you're giving to that person, or it's all about that person, not even say for that moment, but you'll get something back in return, and depending, a lot of things can happen.
Right.
You saying my pleasure, you know what I mean? So people might be motivated to do some things.
So let's paint a picture. So imagine if a couple gets up in the morning, do their normal routine, but they begin to say to each other during the course of the routine of the day, it's my pleasure to do this for you. It's my pleasure to do that. At the end of the day, because of all the deposits of it's my pleasure, like you said, it can lead to something that's more explosive and more passionate when it comes down to the bedroom. We're grown here. It is what it is.
Right.
A lot of times people are afraid to do that because when you say it's my pleasure, that means the focus is not on you. It's what do you, when you say it's my pleasure, that means you looking at every way I can to please you.
Right. And that's the way it should be. I think when you do that, it automatically becomes a two-way street. You know, somebody say my pleasure, it's almost as if, you know, you're gonna automatically say back, well, you know, they got me, I want to get them. You know, like it should be an automatic response.
Right, it should be your automatic. So what happens is it's actually disarming when somebody said it's my pleasure. Because you're so used to, we're so programmed to do our culture and do life to be on guard. But when someone said it's my pleasure, you're like, wait, you really said that? It's your pleasure? What happens is you begin to soften up and say, ooh, if they're giving it at that level, I cannot allow them to outdo me. Let me see how I can be a pleasure to them.
Right. I mean, what can you say to that when somebody says my pleasure? Like, to me, you would want to go above and beyond, you know, for that person. I don't see why you wouldn't, if somebody was to say that to you.
I think some people couldn't do that if they have emotional blocks or they're not able to receive that level of someone, or they only look at pleasure as just in the bedroom, not seeing that in your everyday actions that's pleasure. So there can be blocks there to say, you know what, I can't believe this person is doing it, that is actually a pleasure. And so they have blocks to it, so they couldn't receive it.
That could be. I think it also opens up to a level of submission. A pleasure, like you're giving away, or you know, you let somebody else take kind of your catering. Keep going back to catering, but it's almost like a submissive move. You're submissing.
Because
and that goes ways.
That well, see, there we go. Well, you can't see me, so.
You're
My faces, I'm making faces.
I can see you.
Huh?
I can see you.
Okay, so you know what face I'm making like. So, but okay, I can see that, because in order to please someone or to be a pleasure to someone, this is the other side of it. I just thought of when you said that. When you order to be a pleasure to someone, you got to know what pleases them.
Right.
And I think a lot of times, so for someone to say it out of the blue, it says, it's my pleasure. Like, wait a minute. It becomes personal and not just an everyday thing or something that you just say to someone, but it becomes actually personal because they said, you know what, for them to know what pleases me, that means they're intimate with me or they know me. It's a connection that's on a deeper level. If I would say it's my pleasure, that means, wow, you really know me. Because to please me is to know me.
Yeah. And you hope that they want to do that.
Yeah, we would hope, but everybody don't.
Yeah.
This is Lawrence D. Adams, and I'm back. You just heard a conversation between myself and Miss E. To get the rest of the conversation, because there's more to the conversation, hit the link below. There's a link at the bottom of the page. Hit the link below and get the rest of the conversation. It's my pleasure. You will enjoy it. This is Lawrence D. Adams, and I'm out.